This is, without a doubt, the stupidest tree I own. G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm David. Today we're going to have a look at this Melaleuca, this stupid, ridiculously sized Melaleuca. And I'll start by getting it out of the pot so you can see it properly. Bloody hell. Wow. So, this little Melaleuca. We dug it out of a yard, out of my sister-in-law's yard a couple of years ago. They bought it as a claret tops. I think claret tops are only meant to get fairly small. This thing grew, was 2.5, 3 meters tall. They didn't want it anymore, so we dug a couple of them out, but unfortunately this is the only one that survived. Put it in that big pot, which was not really ideal. I don't know if you can see in the pot, there's only one hole in the bottom, which pretty much sat on the ground, so didn't have very good drainage. It's probably not too bad, as these Melaleucas don't mind a bit of water, but it's probably alternated between being waterlogged and then being let to dry out too much. So I just want to get it into a better pot, not a bonsai pot, just a plastic pot. Was going to do that one. I've got a bigger one here if I need to. Just something that's going to drain a bit better and just let me control the water a bit more. Hopefully get some better growth out of it. I call it stupid because of the size of it. And it doesn't have a lot of really good features really for a bonsai. It's got a big trunk. It's got a nice trunk. Like that is just absolutely gorgeous as far as tree trunks go for a bonsai. But it's got nothing else. I mean, I could chop it off here somewhere, let it grow a nice canopy of foliage and it'd look okay, but it doesn't do it for me. It's got to have a bit of taper in the trunk. And realistically, to do that, it's going to be a long-term project. I'll need to select a branch to be the new leader, one of these probably, and just let it go. And it's going to have to thicken up to probably 3 or 4 inches thick at least to look anywhere normal, I suppose. Yeah, and that's going to take a lot of time. But I need to get it into a better pot and a bit of better potting mix and start feeding the thing a bit more fertilizer, take a bit better care of it, and hopefully I'll see a bit more growth of it. So, not a real lot to do, just take a bit of this old potting mix off, try and get it into a pot. I will see what these roots are doing, if I need to cut any of these big roots back, if they're totally useless to what will be a finished tree, I'll cut them off, but yeah, initially let's just have a look. This is the first time we've done anything with it since we dug it out of the yard. I did cut one large branch off here that was fairly low. I might have included that on a video a little while back. It did have one fairly large branch growing here, but that was never going to be much good to the final design of a tree. So once it started shooting all this foliage out up here, I cut that off. Still struggling with it sending out shoots around that wound site, which Melaleucas are renowned for. But yeah, I just keep pinching them off and letting the top growth grow. It'll be interesting to see what root structure is underneath the soil level here. Because there wasn't a lot of small roots that came with it when we dug it out.
Looking down, down, down at the little people in your big green
The main part of the trunk goes down to about here, the looks of it. I'd say somewhere there was where we cut it off. We may have to cut some more off of that today, because ultimately you're probably not going to want a bonsai pot that's that deep. If I'm going to do a major chop like that and risk losing the tree, I'd rather do it now than in 20 years' time when it actually looks like a tree, and then have it drop dead. Imagine losing that amount of work. I'm sure it happens. And there's a lot of wood in there. Might duck up and grab the reciprocating saw, because we're going to need to make a cut on that. I'll be back. Righto. We're going to have to cut quite a bit of this off, I think. Wow. Fortunately, that looks like we've retained a lot of roots, which is awesome. Don't know if we'll keep all of that, but gives us options anyway. Just to give you an idea, that's nearly as big as my hand, the bit that we've cut off. That's unreal. So a lot of these are going straight down. We might be able to send some of them in an outward direction maybe. There's still a fair bit going on here. Let's have a look at what we've got. A lot of these roots aren't great. We've got one big one here. I wouldn't really want to get rid of that if we can help it. But what I'm wondering is if we lean the tree over in the pot, keep our soil level there or thereabouts, just lean the tree a little, maybe back that way. We could cut some of these off, promote some of these ones down here will all grow, and you'll probably expose a bit more of that flare underneath the surface there. Don't know. Need to work out a front probably before I stress too much about that. I reckon at the very least that one can go, that one can go. They're both sort of pointing up a bit, and our soil level can come down to here. Gives us some more trunk flare to look at. So I'll try and cut them off fairly flush. too bad. What's the best way to get into that? I don't have tools suitable for trees like this. There's a couple of roots there that borderline too high. Not sure. I'll leave them there for now. Come around the front and have a look. Righto, what do we got? I'd nearly be inclined to promote that root there as a main root and have your soil level somewhere there. That might be what we aim for. That and that. And see, it just gives you a bit more width in your trunk. That's 5.5 inches across, I reckon. There's a big root out the front there that's wrapping around. Probably left over from when it was a little tacker in a pot. That'll probably end up being below the soil surface, so it probably won't be an issue, but it'll heal up all right anyway. Probably leave the rest, I reckon. Except this one here, maybe. That one there could probably be cut back. It doesn't have a lot growing off it. I'll cut it back to where it bends there somewhere and hopefully it'll shoot out sideways. Should I trim that one back a bit? Maybe not, because it'll depend on where that ends up in the pot, whether that's a nice feature to have just above the soil surface. Crikey, that's going to need a big pot, isn't it? And a forklift to carry it around, probably. Let's cut this one off here. There wasn't a huge amount of roots on that anyway. Careful, careful, careful. Some of this other stuff. Probably leave a lot of those other roots, I reckon. Give it a hand to get up and running again. It's not going to fit into the little pot. In fact, I don't even know if it'll go into this pot, to be honest. Which will be disappointing if it doesn't. Oh. It will just fit. Beautiful. That's shit. This is second-hand potting mix, but it still has a bit of body in it, so I'm happy to reuse it. And it'll drain better in this pot. Let go. I nearly reckon we need to trim that big one back a bit. Oh, I'm going to take a couple inches off the end of it. Just to make it easier on us to get it potted up. That'll work a bit better. Just need to trim a few things up to get it to fit sort of where I want it. Give it enough room in the pot. I reckon that's going to be a problem. So I'll cut it back to where it's got other roots growing. That'll work better. Oh, that'll probably do it. Soil level's probably a little bit higher than what I intended, but it'll settle down as I give it a good water. And that soil will settle down. What else do we need to do to it? Probably need to have a look at, give me a sec. Don't know if this will work. Oh, no. That's a bit silly, but whatever. Righto, the top part of the tree. As you can see from the back, or what I call the back because it's got nothing growing out of it, you just got a trunk. That's it. It's got cool bark and all that. It's got a bit of taper in it. That's all good, but there's nothing interesting in that, so that's not the makings of a good tree. We're getting some growth out of here, and we're getting some up a bit higher. So what do? Personally, I think this lower stuff here should be promoted. Probably don't need to wire it. It's actually coming out on a little bit of a downward angle there. I don't know if you can see that on the video. And then it sort of curves up. So maybe you could just leave that grow for a bit and then maybe, no, it's probably not at a bad angle. But if I cut all this off, that may even straighten up a little bit more. But the main thing will be to fatten this wherever this one goes, just to fatten it up so it's a continuation of the trunk. I don't want just a stump with branches coming out making a canopy. They can look okay until you sort of spread the branches and you just see a friggin' great trunk chop, and you know all it is an old tree that's been just chopped off and it's just sprouted a canopy. To me, that doesn't look like any effort's gone into the tree, and it doesn't appeal to me at all. So that's why this is such a long-term project. What other options do we have? I mean, you could use this higher up one and do a similar thing, let that grow and become part of the trunk. But then you've got such a big increase in that section, and this section's going to be, you're going to end up with a massive great tree. It's going to look cool, but it's going to be huge. I think we need to concentrate on something as low down as we can. That obviously was too low, is you don't take advantage of any of this. trunk height. I think anywhere between there and there is ideal, so I think that's the one we'll go with. Do I want to cut all that off? I will cut off anything that's shading that, just so that gets maximum sunlight and should therefore grow a bit quicker, a bit better maybe. I don't know if I even want to leave any of this here, but I might just leave it. My lights are running out of power already. I might leave it there while the tree recovers after that big root chop, and then I might cut that back. I reckon this section up here, once we get a bit further in with the design, I reckon we can do some pretty cool carving with that. That would make a pretty big piece of deadwood. Yeah, how I end up orienting the tree exactly, I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter too much. It's going to be an impressive looking tree just because of the size of it. So yeah, I don't know that it needs to have a lean or anything like that, but anyway, that's it. That's my big monster Melaleuca. Yeah, this is going to be a long-term project. If I want to grow that out to 3, 4, 5 inches thick, that's probably 10 years worth of growing in a pot, maybe more. And then you've got a lot of work on top of that, getting a nice branch structure and stuff. So yeah, don't expect to see this one too often, but it's in the background and hopefully this will help it grow a lot quicker. I'll get a heap of dynamic lifter into it, fertilise it and give it a good water. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.